Martinsville Speedway. It always challenges even the best of drivers, especially with its tight braking zones, its tight corners overall, and its quick but short straightaways. It allows opportunities for potential dives in the chrome horn, but can also lead to plenty of attrition. Tonight, the top drivers of the Bootleg Racing League are all set to challenge the paperclip to see if they can conquer this 0.53-mile facility. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Global SimRacing Channel's coverage of the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series and its second race of the Moonshine Challenge. It's race 7 of Season 5, tonight here on GSRC. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Devin Henry. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. As the drivers prepare for tonight's action, let's take a look at our GSRC track guide to learn more about Martinsville.
Welcome to a piece of racing history. The Martinsville Speedway in South Central Virginia opened before NASCAR was even founded, and it is one of the sport's original tracks. Its paperclip shaped half-mile has grown from a dusty pioneer to a beautiful racing facility. Going off of the paperclip nickname, Martinsville is two 12-degree banked corners attached to two 800-foot-long straights. Getting out of these corners is all about managing the rear tires sliding around. It often feels like you're coming out of a valley as you head onto the straights. Martinsville is very much a rhythm-based racetrack though, some even referring to it as a rocking chair. You get that sensation because you want to feel the front of the car slam down under braking and then lift back up under acceleration. Making things even more complicated is the fact that the track is only 55 feet wide. Down in the corners, you'll find that yellow curve. It's elevated off the track by several feet, and if you catch it with those left side tires, you're bound to grab a handful of steering wheel. All of the action isn't on the track, however. The pit road that starts in the entry to Turn 3 and exits out of Turn 2 is only 46 feet wide itself, making pit road under caution look like a circus. Martinsville is not a track that you can rest on your laurels at. Always on top of the wheel is the name of the game. The drivers that do that best find themselves with a grandfather clock trophy. The fans come from all over, the drivers come from all over, even internationally, to race at the hallowed grounds. So settle in, buckle up, it's bound to be a great race.
That's a look at your GSRC track guide for Martinsville Speedway. Now let's bring my broadcast partner for tonight, Devin Henry, as we get ready to race the paperclip. Your thoughts for these cars here tonight?
Well, we all just saw there on the track guide just how difficult Martinsville can really be on this short half mile. You got the 12 degrees of banking in the corner, and that doesn't save you much, Justin. You know you got to be hard on those brakes when you go into turn 1, when you go into turn 3, and be careful on the throttle on exit. The width of this track is only 55 feet. Honestly, it almost feels like 3 car widths at most, but you can't go 3 wide into any corner because otherwise you're going to have trouble coming. So plenty of opportunities to get yourself in a mess. If you can avoid that chaos, you're going to have yourself in good shape when we come to the checkered flag tonight.
It's going to be an interesting race indeed for these competitors tonight, especially since this could be one that will be very important, to say the least, for the championship standings. Entering tonight, J.R. Shepard holds just a 3-point advantage over Kenny Kibbe in the standings. J.R. Shepard with 4 victories on the season, Kibbe with 1. Justin Morton, who has a victory here, remember, back in 2020, is 11 points back in the standings. James Lowe is 15 points back entering today. Austin Belke rounds out the top 5. Belke currently 45 points behind in the standings. And don't forget, this is the second race of the Moonshine Challenge, which is a challenge which features all the tracks at Martinsville and North Wilkesboro, meaning today, J.R. Shepard enters as that points leader after a win in North Wilkesboro earlier on in the campaign with 8 points. James Lowe 7, Kibbe with 6, down 1 point each to Morton, Adam Gebel, Ruben Altis, Mark Herzog, Todd Liston. Now we're taking a look at your race details here tonight, Devin. Let's go through the details.
Yeah, round number 7 of 11. It feels like we just started the season, but we're already getting into the clutch time. 100 lap races here in the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series, but most importantly, you can't change tires. No extra sets. You have to run all 100 laps exactly how you started and save up that right front here on these short tracks. And of course, most importantly, even beyond the tires, just one fast repair. Do not get caught up in a mess that's not your fault, and try to save that fast repair because it's tough to come through the field. And my favorite part of this series is how we set the field. No qualifying. Where you finished last week, it's where you start this week, except the top 8 gets inverted. So the fast guys who won last week, they have to come from almost mid-pack.
That's going to make things very interesting for tonight and for the competitors in both the Street Stock and the Tour Modified Series races tonight so far. It's been difficult to try and cut through the field unless you get a good launch or someone makes a mistake in front of you. Now, our track conditions for tonight in sim time is just approaching 7 p.m., just past that mark rather. Track temp 75, air temp is 72 degrees Fahrenheit. The wind's gusting at 7 miles an hour to the northwest, humidity 42% on iRacing Day, May 15th, 2021. So the temperature is fairly cool for tonight's action. There is a chance we get the lights turning on at one point as well tonight for these cars.
And not having to fight the weather is a major advantage for these drivers because you look at the pylon on the left side of your screen and we have us a pretty full field. Every now and again, sometimes as low as a count as maybe like 14, but tonight with 20 cars, you're going to have to be careful not to get caught up in messes. If you're stuck in the back, there are a lot of cars that you will need to get by to get back out front.
And that's a good example because in the Street Stock race, there was an incident that ended in a caution flag, spread out a majority of the top 10 by as much as 3 to 5 seconds. Guess who won the race? The one car who stayed out of trouble in that race, Jeffrey Harden, by more than a second. Then in the Tour Modified race, J.R. Shepard was able to avoid 2 big collisions, including one where Steven Spies had spun around from second, and a second car had a checkup moment, was hit from behind, and then had to pile up out of turn 4 as he slid up the racetrack. Guess what? Shepard won the race by a few car lengths in a one-lap shootout in that event. After keeping the car clean, Justin Morton ended up getting involved in 2 of the final 3 incidents of the race to blow a motor. It's been a night for these competitors where if you stay clean and in front of the wrecks, you're likely winning the race so far.
Yeah, that would be the hope, wouldn't it, Justin? So, at the very least, some of the guys who started, or finished, about mid-pack last week get to start up front to begin with. But we have seen so many times when some of those drivers get out front, race pace becomes so critical because some drivers jump out in front of the field. They get a big lead, but at the same time, they're using up all their tires and they get absolutely trucked from behind. Drivers just railroad around them. And so you have to be able to manage your tires, especially at a track like Martinsville where you're heavy on the brakes, and the second that you get punted out to that outside lane, you are going to be searching for even limits of margins to get back to the inside. Otherwise, you're going to be slipping back a few positions.
The margin right now between first and second in practice between J.R. Shepard and Justin Morton is 0.05 seconds overall. That's about 5/100ths of a second. Kenny Kibbe is in third with a 20.644. Ruben Alti, Steven Spies, your current top 5. So the pace, pretty quick for our competitors tonight. The separation amongst the top 10, about 2 to 3 seconds. 2 to 3 tenths rather.
And J.R. Shepard, he's won about 3/4 of the all-time Grand National Series races in the Bootleg Racing League. But for Shepard, at least, he's kind of on a dry spell. He hasn't won here at Martinsville in what feels like quite a while. Last season, Kenny Kibbe comes out, he wins here. 2 seasons ago, Justin Morton picked up his first ever win in the Grand National Series. So we've seen this race kind of be a wild card, and with how tight the points have been, Justin, this is another track where maybe a guy like James Lowe can get his name closer up to the top of the points pylon and once again get him back after some shaky races here in this season.
Indeed, following along with some of the drivers to make their way around the racetrack for the next 5 minutes. And in your opinion, what's it going to take for drivers to be able to properly get around here without burning up their equipment, especially with a lot of grip tonight and a lot of clouds above the circuit?
Well, the easiest thing to do is just back up your corners a little bit. If you get off the gas earlier, if you brake a little bit earlier, just to slow down the car so that right front isn't slowing it down for you. But it's a double-edged sword, because if you slow down too much and the car behind you does not realize that, does not anticipate that slowdown by you, you can just get absolutely punted. As we look off the rear bumper here, these front bumper and rear bumpers do not play along very well. A minor nudge is going to either spin you out or fly you up the track. So you just have to be aware of not just what's going on in front of you, but also what's going on behind you. Because if you brake a little bit too hard and someone's not ready for it, or let's say that they have their right front burned out, then you might just get absolutely ran over. But a key that a lot of drivers don't consider, Justin, is how you get back on the gas on exit. Not only if you're not aggressive, there's less likely of a chance that you're going to loop it around, but by slowly getting back on that gas pedal, like there's an egg underneath that gas pedal, you will save your tires just a little bit more by not forcing the car to accelerate so harshly off the corners.
Absolutely. In your opinion, in terms of some of your competitors, who do you feel we should keep an eye on? We normally wouldn't see up towards the front, be able to succeed here, because this is a track where drivers have been able to lead for significant amounts of time that we haven't seen lead elsewhere.
And with that also comes how we set the grid with the invert. The top 8 last week being inverted. So the guy who started 8th, so long as they are here tonight, gets that provisional pole. And you look back at last week, Brian Dean is that guy who will be starting on the pole. Kurt Smith will be starting, it looks like, 3rd position tonight. We've seen Kurt Smith either have some good days or just consistent days, and when you have that opportunity to start up front, we've seen Jason Mendo, who will start around the 3rd row tonight, run extremely well when he gets to have that forward starting position. Started on pole last week, finished 4th at Southern National, so he's another guy starting inside the top 5 who you might see out there contending for another now back-to-back top 5s here tonight.
Approaching 2 minutes to go in the session as well. What are some of the other things you should keep in mind as a driver for tonight, knowing how tricky it's going to be, especially with potential for attrition to pop up?
Well, last week, attrition was the name of the game, right? Goodness gracious. 10 cautions for 48 laps at Southern National. And that's not always how this league goes. Sometimes we go to South Boston, and there isn't a single caution in the race. So it's a little bit of a mix and match when it comes to this series. But particularly last week, we saw how vital it was to make those position moves early on. Because let's say you just get a nose on someone going down the back straight and a quick caution happens in the back. Well, that can be 2 positions gained just on that initial restart, and now you are having to pass less cars the next time that we go green. And we saw some of the fast guys like Kibbe, Morton, and Shepard utilize that so that they have the ability to move forward through the field without having to burn up those tires. That is another issue potentially that these drivers have to face, is what if I get stuck on the outside because I made a pass really well to open up this restart and then we go yellow again. So and I guess, of course, Justin, as we all know, that's just a little bit of chance, a little bit of probability at play.
Justin Morton, by the way, has taken the top spot in practice with a 20.511 over J.R. Shepard's 20.578. So their trading times for the end of this session. Who's your pick for tonight?
Boy, I see, and it's like, obviously you have to go with J.R. Shepard, but if I'm going to Las Vegas, you don't bet on the guy with like 1-to-1 odds. So you can't go with J.R. Shepard just because that's the easy pick. So maybe someone that I like to see, Justin Morton, get back into victory lane. He won this race 2 seasons ago. I think that every time that we come here to Martinsville, he shows off a little bit of his stuff, and so I think watching that number 9 machine might be a good pick tonight to see him potentially go back to victory lane, and again, put his name back towards the top of the list when we come down to the championship standings, because we are coming down to the tail end of this season, and we will see who can knock off either Kenny Kibbe or J.R. Shepard, the only 2 drivers to win a championship in this series, and try to bring home the Season 5 championship.
I'm going to go with Steven Spies as my pick in that regard. He was someone who was competitive in the Tour Modified race before. He looped it around from 2nd position and ended up colliding and causing one of the bigger pileups of that respective race. But our drivers are all set for the Grand National Series race. Let's take a look at how they'll start for tonight's action. 100 laps on the docket, and Brian Dean will lead them to the first one. James Lowe will start to his outside today. Kurt Smith starts in row 2, coming off a competitive modified race. Refinish in the top 5. Steven Spies will start in 4th position. Jason Mendez starts in 5th after a very strong run last round, where Kenny Kibbe will start to his right in row 3. Row 4 features Justin Morton and J.R. Shepard. Rounds out your top 8 inversion spots. Adam Shane starts in 9th position tonight. He had some speed last week in the riding shotgun machine. Joe Segala rounds out your top 10.
Inside of row number 6, we Ryan Seneker. Outside of him in the 22 is Bruce Pearson. Austin Belke, always in the Jeff Gordon throwback, starts inside of row number 7. Jeffrey Harden, who won the street stock race here just a couple hours ago, starts off in 14th. Chris Wolfson will start inside of row number 8 in the number 17. Donnie Moore starts in 16th. Robbie Robinson joined us tonight in the number 56, starting inside of row 9. Ruben Altice rejoined us. He'll start in 18th tonight. Mike Holloway will start off in 19th, and Todd Liston outside of row 10.
Top to bottom at your starting grid for tonight's action. 20 drivers have made it to the virtual Martinsville Speedway for what's expected to be an intriguing race tonight. One to go signal this time by the iRacing pace car. Your keys to victory tonight, Devin.
My absolute key is to not get caught up in somebody else's mess. Having to pass 19 cars at a track like Martinsville is going to be difficult over the course of 100 laps. So try to keep that nose clean. If you don't have to use that fast repair, that's great. But another one, save your stuff. We say this every week. When you come to a track with the low banks at Martinsville, if you have the most right front with a late race restart, you're going to be in the best shape to bring home the checkered flag.
Drivers now making the way down the back straightaway. It's Brian Dean and James Lowe in control of the field tonight. Keep an eye on the drivers, though, in row 4. Some of our top championship competitors around there for this evening. But for Dean, he's all set to kick things off tonight. Green flags out. We're underway for Martinsville. And already a slide in front of James Lowe. He gets single file into turn 1. And James Lowe gets turned into turn 2. J.R. Shepard and Kurt Smith stop in the middle of the corner, and we're already under caution.
Wow, that is immensely disappointing. One of the keys that I wanted to bring up early was the fact that James Lowe, with a finish last week not to his liking, able to start on the front row, might give him an advantage tonight. We'll watch again. The ball's out racing, red number 99. How about that initial start, though, by Brian Dean? Absolutely textbook. Watch behind him, Kurt Smith. Now, Mark Martin throwback. I don't know. That looks like a little bit of netcode to me. Everyone checks up then. It's just a massive accordion effect.
Kurt Smith with a bit of damage as a result from that. Lowe with some damage. Let's take a look at J.R. Shepard. He was trying to go again from 8th position. Then this. Gets hit from behind.
And again, that's him checking up. We talked about earlier, I didn't necessarily refer to instances like these, but if you're checking up the corner, sometimes the guy behind you just flat out can't see what's going on. And as much as they should be on the brakes sometimes, oftentimes in an incident like that where they're going 80 to 0 in mere seconds, the brakes of the guy behind you just isn't enough due to the lack of reaction time.
So already under caution for the first time tonight. Dean, Spies, Menda, Kibbe, Morton, Segala, Shane, and Pearson are now your top 8. James Lowe, Kurt Smith, Mike Holloway losing several positions as a result of that caution flag situation. J.R. Shepard was able to keep his car in 13th position, however. The worst of it, though, went to Kurt Smith, I think, who's got back end and front end damage. The rest of the drivers fairly clean now were involved in that incident in the middle of the corner. That could have been much bigger.
Oh, absolutely, Justin, because you saw exactly how they piled up. We mentioned earlier Martinsville is only 55 feet wide, and when you get into the corners and then you're moving from asphalt to concrete, it can get much worse than that, but very unfortunate for Kurt Smith. Love to see that Mark Martin throwback running up front, and when he gets that up front starting position, he's usually able to utilize that. But how about your pick? Steven Spies gets to restart on the front row now.
Yes, indeed. Especially with a 1 to go signal. We'll see how the 55 does now with the track position. Kenny Kibbe and Justin Morton, 4th and 5th. Dean controlled car. Menda, he's had some strong runs here too in the past. He's in 3rd at the moment. Remember him running in the top 5 at one point in the most recent races here.
Got a Kyle Petty inspired American number 45 car. Started on pole last week, finished in 4th.
So good start for him. It's a +2 for him. +2 for Speed's biggest movers are +4 for Pearson. Almost a gallop. Green flags out, and Speeds times it up perfectly on the outside, going for the race lead.
I mean, you even saw Kenny Kibbe fall back an entire row. I don't think on the outside lane you can really plan that much better. Still, Brian Dean will have the sole lead here, but Speeds is right up on that rear bumper. He'll have an opportunity to strike here when he sees fit.
Joe Segal and Jeffrey Harding both went around to the back of the field. No caution. We stay green. The teammates are now 19th and 20th on the racetrack, while Speeds is now single file in second. Menda, Morton, Kibbe, the current top 5. Now the caution is out for Harding.
Boy, a tough one when you get to win the street stock race and then you have issues here later tonight. The big show, the Grand National Series, the 8th feature, if you will. We'll take a look back here. The black number 44 is Jeffrey Hardin. You see him go in a little bit deep. Might have got back on that gas a little early. Again, J.R. Shepard nearly collected. And we'll see when the caution flies here, because that wasn't the caution, because technically he was off track. These are iRacing cautions, so.
Yep.
You never really know sometimes when the actual caution ends up flying out.
He keeps on going, and here's the reason for the caution coming up here. In turn 4, he's already heated up the tires, goes around a second time in as many sets of corners. And because Joe Segal was around him, that's enough to trigger the caution flag down the front straightaway.
Yeah, that's just a tough one to handle after such an impressive night. And how about this, the 99 of James Lowe back down pit road, Justin?
It's the first time he's actually been down pit road, so he is now elected to come down to use some of your fast repair or get some damage repaired on the car. And he doesn't have the track position, so I can understand the decision here to come down and use the fast repair here. 4-second stop.
Boy, I don't know if I like that. Using your fast repair at Martinsville, having to restart in the back with 91 to go. I mean, he would have had at least a little bit of time to get some manual repairs. You have to wonder if there might have been a suspension issue on that number 99 if he had to get that fast repair.
And if you have suspension issues with this car, even bad enough damage to where, say, part of the body drags on the race car, it can significantly slow you down, especially if it drags the front nose, for example.
And you know that he wants to come out here and do well from Portsmouth, Virginia. This is basically his virtual home race. He wants to come out here and do well. Started in second, but he'll have 90 laps to try to make his trek back out front.
Now keep in mind, one of the main things when it comes to these cars is the nose can drag, so that may be part of the reason too where it can bottom out easily here at this track. J.R. Shepard, as you can see though, is up to 11th position. Decent recovery from him so far. He's one of the drivers holding on to their fast repair with a bit of damage from that first lap caution flag.
You have to hold on to that fast repair as long as you can. It doesn't matter what short track we are at here in the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series. But this is the guy who, if anyone's going to come through the field, it's going to be that 98 machine.
Want to go signal this time by Dean, still your race leader. Spees, Morton, along with Menda in your top 4 positions. Kibbe and Shane in row 3. Row 4, Pearson and Ryan Seneker. Green flags up in the air, back underway, and another good launch for Speeds. This time, though, trying to get single file to the bottom side around the 23.
Yeah, this time he's actually going to have a little bit of pressure from behind as well. The number 9 of Justin Morton is able to hold on to that rear bumper. How about Menda trying to fight back against that 9 machine on the inside for 4th?
And they're not able to get the pole off the corner, though. Move Morton up to 3rd position. Now, keep in mind, this is a bottom-dominant racetrack, but you can make a pass on the high side, as seen in recent years, especially if you're able to squeeze the car down below you and get better momentum off the corner. It's tricky, though, to get the pass done like Morton did.
tricky at the very least is a good way to say it, because not only do you have to squeeze them, but if you bump doors with them, you are going to spin around. So it is almost an art to squeeze someone here at Martinsville in these Arkham Menard series machines. So it's a tough one to do, and it's hard. You have to have the momentum coming off the corner prior to even make that move and not get stalled out on the back straightaway. So there are a lot of things to passing on the outside, but unless the guy in front of you makes a mistake, it's hard to get that nose to the inside.
Caution flag is out again. It's for Ryan Seneker this time. And a couple drivers were struggling the past couple laps. Seneker, Robbie Robinson nearly spun it around the previous lap. Bruce Pearson lost several spots. This is the caution, though. 61 machine. Running this level of the series a few weeks back. Really licked the stamp. Unfortunately, the stamp just didn't stick to the envelope.
He got in a little bit hot. He needed to lick the stamp, and he put the faucet on the stamp instead. Just goes a little bit too fast. And again, unfortunately, that's what iRacing cautions will do to you. They're getting stalled out there on the outside. And once again, we are under another caution 15 laps into this race.
Yeah, nobody likes soaking wet mail from being soaked by a faucet. Let's put it that way. 84 laps to go, though, this time by. Dean's led every single lap so far. You have to be wondering what's going through his mind. Being able to control this field. No one's been able to get a good run yet to try to attack yet on that machine. Same for speeds.
Well, on one hand, if you're Dean, you have to feel good, right? Because you're still in control of this race. You had good restart starts, and the initial start as well, I should say, was phenomenal. But you might also be a little bit stressed out because, goodness gracious, that 55 of Steven Speeds has been keeping up. One minor mistake from Dean in that 55 car is going to be coming around the outside. So we have seen Dean, though, in the past do extremely well on restarts. So not a major concern, but you never like when the guy on the outside of you actually knows what you're doing. So he will have to mix up these restarts a little bit. And another thing that I love to see, is always great to have Robbie Robinson in the field from Manhattan, Indiana, the 26-year Air Force veteran, and then, of course, another veteran, the 25-year firefighter veteran, Jason Menda. Always love having those two in the field and in the same race. So two American heroes, if you will, in tonight's race. I always love when we get both of them in the field here in the Grand National Series.
Absolutely. Menda again in 4th position. Robinson has just come down pit. He's in 19th position. It took 17, 18 seconds for damage repair. Keep in mind, if you elect to keep the fast repair and get manual repairs, this is a track where you won't have much time to do repairs, maybe 30 seconds the most. Pace speed is about 45 miles an hour, 45 I should say. Pit speed limit 35. The pace laps, however, only 45 seconds.
That's the biggest part, is that pit speed is so dang slow. Even though you're going the shorter way around, it's really not that much of an advantage on pit road because you're going 10 miles an hour slower.
That in turn is why several drivers only took about 20 seconds of damage repair. This caution, Smith and Robinson, those two. iRacing pace car is off, however, 81 laps to go. Dean in control of the field. Menda trying to time it up, nearly hit the back bumper of the 55. He's able to nearly get to the bottom side as Morton takes a peek.
And that's what you do as a great leader of a race. Be able to mix up those restarts and find a way to give yourself a car length, 2 car lengths out front here on the restart.
So the track is starting to get cooler as the sun continues to set behind the clouds, already approaching your 8 p.m. in-sim time. Also, humidity is continuing to drop. The wind continuing to play a factor for these drivers as well. Of note, though, J.R. Shepard is now battling for 6th position with Adam Shane. J.R. Shepard on the recovery drive. Chris Wolfson is also around on the back straightaway. No caution flag.
For J.R. Shepard, this is where it certainly doesn't get any easier. In order to get into the top 5, he'll have to go around Kenny Kibbe, last season's winner here at Martinsville, and of course one of those 4 major championship contenders. So yeah, from here on out, you're passing your championship combatants.
Valuable points on the table, absolutely, especially trying to defend as well. As you've seen, by the way, Chris Wolfson has made it to the pit lane. He's blown his motor. They'll have to use a fast repair to continue on this race. Only 1 DNF so far, Jeffrey Harden. Shepard, though, with the run to the inside of Kibbe for 5th position.
And as an iRacer myself, I watch that and I get frustrated because I go, how did he do that? I watched very carefully there, and I don't know how you get a run on a guy like Kenny Kibbe like that down the back straightaway. Now with the positioning, able to move into P4. That one's a little bit tight on exit there. Shane's trying to follow along with the 98, but still J.R. Shepard making his move up to the front.
Indeed there as Kibbe trying to defend, gets single file. Shane goes back in line. Coming up to a quarter distance through this upcoming time by as Menda nearly lost in front of J.R. Shepard, lost a bit of time.
Now we'll check him up and we'll allow Kibbe to get a little bit back to that rear bumper. Still a little bit of rear bumper damage on the 98 as we wash off the rear end of Jason Menda. Started on the pole last week, finished in 4th. Right now, once again, trying to hold on to a top 5. It's been a good pair of runs thus far for Jason Menda. But there you see some diamonding, Justin, from J.R. Shepard. You see he's already trying to play with these corners 25 laps in and see where he can find speed.
Yeah, and there's different approaches absolutely you can take to it. There's the diamond, the double diamond. There's the arc taking into 1 and 2, for example. Shepard's doing that here. There's also just trying to run right up against those rumble strips and try and take it a little bit more of a tighter line. There's so many ways you can just take this track these days here at Martinsville.
And how about the patience as well from J.R. Shepard? I mean, he is right on the rear bumper, that 45 machine. So, oh, there goes Menda. Lost it a little bit, able to recollect it, but he's going to lose a pair of positions at least.
A little bit too hot into the corner. Followed it up the racetrack, and now Menda is back to 7th position with that mistake. Kibbe's up to 5th. Shane is up to 6th spot. Your biggest movers now in the race are Mike Holloway and Todd Liston. By the way, they're just outside the inversion spots behind Donnie Moore. 10 positions gained apiece for the 2 and the 87.
And Moore had himself a bottle, so for that provisional pole next week, that battle's getting more interesting as Brian Dean continues to lead this race. Not saying a blistering pace, but still able to control the pace. Allows him to kind of save up that right front, but at the very least, still being hounded by Steven Speeds.
Past 10 laps, second best average lap pace. 20.923. Shepard, I should rather say, second best at a 20.925, but just picked it up to a 28.95 for the past 10 laps. So Shepard is coming. And he's one of the quickest cars the racetrack. Dean is right now one of the second quickest cars, to put it that way.
And for Dean, all you need to do is not make a mistake. Easier said than done, as Speeds will take a peek to the inside. Dean wants to shut the door, can't shut the door, but we'll have a little bit of a run on the outside, and things starting to get scrappy up here for P1.
He's starting to pick up a little bit of pace. Was a couple 100s quicker last time. Was about a 10th quicker the previous time before that. The bobble though off the corner. All drivers lose momentum. Lap traffic is ahead. Joe Sagawa is within 10 car lengths of these leaders, so traffic could start playing a factor pretty soon here at the paperclip.
And watch out for that gray 98. Shepard is right on the rear end of this train, right behind Justin Morton. Look for him to throw his name into this hat very soon.
Steven Speeds hits the wall. He goes up the racetrack. Justin Morton up to second. J.R. Shepard jumps up to third. A big mistake from Speeds at that moment of the race, especially with the chance to take the lead. Instead, he's looking to hope to keep himself inside the top 4.
And honestly, he is lucky that he only lost 2 positions there, but the last thing that you ever want to see is the rear bumper of that number 98 Ford, because there aren't very many times that you get back around that 98.
And Speeds was doing a stellar job before that mistake in getting himself against that outside wall. Now, the prior Martinsville winner, or past Martinsville winner, I should say, Justin Morton, now applying the pressure, trying some different lines in the TDR machine.
Yeah, won this race just a couple seasons ago, looking to get back into victory lane. Still looking for win number 1 on this season. Shepard has picked up 4. Kenny Kibbe and James Lowe both have a win to their credit. But thus far, Justin Morton, as he has done many seasons, not ending up in victory lane, but consistently has his name in that hunt for the championship.
The main trouble spot, though, for Morton has been long-run pace throughout the campaign because of the tires. He's, in turn, either lit up the rear tires in the majority of the races, or in a couple races this season, it's been the right front tire that he struggled with Looking like he's kept the tires very cool tonight, though. Nice and smooth.
Yeah, this is a guy who just absolutely loves to manhandle his car. We see him on Friday nights in the Dirt Street Stock Series here on GSRC as well. And for those races, of course, you're bringing that wheel back to the right quite a bit. And a lot of times with Morton, he'll bring that wheel back to the right as well. He loves to be on the gas, either through gas or even on these asphalt short track or concrete short track, sometimes at Martinsville. But nonetheless, he loves to get aggressive with his machine, and he's still just always working to find that edge of exactly how hard he can push it.
See on board, separated by about 2-3 tenths of a second. And as well, you can see with just some of the wheel movements, having to try and bump it to the right. Caution flag is out, though, as Kurt Smith goes around on the front straightaway.
And you might think, you know what, this is good for Justin Morton. And I'll tell you why it's not, because J.R. Shepard will line up on third. But let's take a look back. Maybe a little bit of contact there between Wolfson and Smith as he goes around on the front straightaway. We'll watch again here.
I think it was going around right before the contact. So he was starting to lose it right before Wolfson got into him.
And that's another thing where as a driver behind, you expect the guy in front of you to go on exit. And yeah, that's all you see there. Smith, if there's not someone directly behind him, he has an opportunity to save that. But when there's a guy right behind you getting back on the accelerator, there's no chance.
And now it gets fun, because now the field is going to be grouped back up. Guess who's going to be on the bottom? It almost seems to work out this way for J.R. Shepard. Going to be starting third on the preferred line here. The top line, though, has had some good restarts tonight, as the lucky dog is Joe Segala.
And you mentioned earlier about the biggest movers of the race, and of course that doesn't count J.R. Shepard, since he started in the 8th position, but was involved in that lap 1 wreck. So quite frankly, he has came all the way from the back to now sitting in the 3rd position. And I think here at Martinsville, that's not just the 3rd position, that is the catbird seat on this restart.
Kurt Smith, by the way, has come in to get some manual repairs done in his number 6 machine down the pit lane. Will keep himself on the lead lap as the drivers make their way in turn 1, but it's going to be fun to see as well, though, how the battle for the inversion spots go for the pole position for the next race, because it goes to Myrtle Beach next week, a very rugged track that is also a fun track for these competitors. Todd Liston is the biggest mover overall position-wise from the qualifying spots, and plus 12 is in that spot.
And for Todd, we saw last season him have some very bright, shining spots. We haven't seen him racing a lot here in Season 5, and tonight he had to start in 20th, dead last, because he did not race last week, and so he got to tag the tail of the field. And up 12 spots, that number 87 machine is looking mighty fine tonight in Virginia.
Expecting a few more pace laps here, and when you have these types of situations, what's going through your mind on what you need to adjust, knowing how this race is played out?
Well, I think the biggest thing on a short track, Justin, as I'm sure you well know, is when you get to restart here, what will the tires feel like? You are now running 45 lap old tires, so once you take the green, how are those rear tires going to take off? How fast is too fast going into turn 1? And once you're able to settle yourself out, get back into just a single file lane, now how hard can I push the car? How much tire has went away from the time that the yellow flag flew to now we restarted, we're single file again? And not to mention, the temperatures in the tires will change as well. The tires do not have the same after 3 laps on green from a restart as they did prior to that caution. So a lot of things that you have to consider. What do I need to adjust to here once we retake the green?
Want to go signal this time to reset your top 8 cars. It's Dean, Morton, Shepard, Speeds, Kibbe, Shane, Menda, and Liston. Belkin, Ballway are also inside your top 10 for this upcoming restart. iRacing pace car is off. Green flag once again, and a big check up on the bottom line and some tire spin for Shepard.
And I think that might have been the cause, is Dean there playing a little bit of restart games, and Justin Morton overshoots turn 1.
3 wide down the back straightaway. How will this work out? Morton trying to hold on to the edge of the concrete. Shepard able to jump up to second as a result. Speeds now up to third.
And right there, those are 3 of the best in this league. That's that's the only reason why that worked out. Speed's almost taking a look to the inside once more, but can't find his nose. And J.R. Shepard, just like that, moves up to P2.
What a pass for Shepard. Now 3 wide behind him as well. That just sent Austin Belkey up the track. Holloway is around. Altice is around for the caution flag. And we're back under yellow once again. That was again a second instance of 3 wide breaking out down the back straightaway, although it was a result of Jason Menda getting loose. This time, though, it doesn't work out for its recipients.
And I mentioned that 3 wide worked the first time because that's 3 of the best in the Bootleg Racing League. And this time around, this is not only a little bit of desperation on the restart to pick up spots, but also a little bit of quick reactions. You see the black 45 of Menda get loose. Someone's got to try to pull out here. No one does. And it's a pinball machine there as Holloway bounces around. And I don't think any of those 3 drivers really were able to get their wheels back under them.
Holloway, as a result, has already come down the pit lane in the number 2 machine for some potential repairs. Chris Wolfson, keep in mind, has already used a fast repair as well as James Lowe. By the way, James Lowe, for reference sake, has only gotten himself to 10th position, as you see the 2 machine. 6 seconds in the pit box, off and away for that fast repair.
And just coming to halfway, you hate to still be having to use that fast repair. But you talk about James Lowe back up into the 10th position, a part of that lap 1 incident in a major way. Started outside front row and had to go all the way back to 20th. Now back halfway through the field at the halfway point, but of course, Justin, it only gets more difficult from here.
And we were talking about this just a couple weeks ago, where he had that rough race at 5 Flags, and then got some luck the next round to be able to close back up the gap, get back in the championship conversation. Now the luck's gone back away again from him. It's gone the opposite direction again.
And now it's 2 races in a row, too. The reason why he started up front was because he finished 7th last week at Southern National, and immediately you think, okay, so he's starting in 2nd. I mean, he can take the lead potentially on lap 1, and now he's going to outpace guys like Morton and Shepard potentially because he won't have to use his tires. And when you get that gift, it gets taken away from you on lap number 1, for crying out loud. So not just a bad week last week because of an incident that wasn't his fault, sending him back to 7th, but then you get the opportunity to have luck, and at this point I think he'd rather just have no luck.
I mean, I'd like to have some luck.
Well, the only luck that he's getting is bad luck right now, so we'll see if he can turn it around. Certainly being up 10 spots at the halfway point is a help.
Expecting the green flag in the next couple laps or so, just past halfway. Dean continues to lead. He has led the entire way so far. Now it gets fun, though, again, as Shepard will start to his outside. Want to go signal, and we got trouble. Spees and several others are making contact under the caution flag. Justin Morton is around, Liston is around, several others are trying to figure out how to sort things out. Delayed yellow under this situation, and I believe it may have been a technical issue for a couple competitors.
A number of drivers yeah, it looks like some iRacing server issues in my mind there. That was chaotic to say the least.
So we'll try this again. So the drivers currently affected the most are Kibbe, which is going to be big, Spees, and Liston. The rest of the drivers are going to be able to get their positions back. The problem is for Dean, he ended up getting back bumper damage from that situation. J.R. Shepard avoided potential damage. Morton able to avoid significant damage. And the green flag is out. We're back underway.
And it looks like some of the drivers are still a little bit befuddled. You see major damage there on the 23 of Brian Dean. And there has to be something more wrong with that 23 because the outside lane is absolutely rolling by.
He is coming straight down to the pit lane. So Brian Dean, who led every single lap prior to that situation, having to come in with significant damage. J.R. Shepard is now your leader. James Lowe, as a result of that, up to 5th. And with this scenario, the championship points are definitely going to take a shake up, to say the very least. Morton is second, by the way. Menda, Shane, and Moore are your top 5.
That's just a heartbreaker. You do every single thing in your power. Everyone did everything that they could there to give themselves a good run, and I mean legitimately not a single person on track did anything wrong. And now we have another yellow coming out.
Austin Belke is the car who goes around.
Now, I meant to mention earlier, Justin, this is a guy who I need to talk to. Because I don't know how he goes about picking his Jeff Gordon throwback every single race. But, I mean, it seems like probably about every 3 races he brings out a throwback that I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, but that time just got loose down the straightaway.
We've seen plenty of drivers have that issue coming off before.
Let's take a look at the onboard. He was already loose coming out of 4.
And those ones scare you because in the driver's seat, you know when the point of no return comes, and at that point, it's just desperation to keep that thing straight, and oftentimes it just doesn't end up working out. But the Superman throwback, I mean, I saw this car when I joined the session, and I was like, that's a good pick. I don't know if Belke has a list of like, I'm running this throwback here and there, but it seems like every 2 or 3 weeks, it's like, oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a good pick. Yeah.
Absolutely. But there's a lot of work that goes in from the iRacing community in paints, right? So it allows different opportunities for drivers to be able to find different looks, and as well have some creativity. There's a lot of designers, mind you, who have gone from the digital world on iRacing to the real world, especially the past couple seasons in real world NASCAR competition.
Just have to love that, right? Because you look at some paint schemes on iRacing and you go, boy, that thing just looks beautiful. And it's a great way for even people who just want to get into the racing design. It doesn't matter if it's something like what Blackbeard does for NHRA, dirt racing, asphalt racing, whatever. Guys can just get a feel for exactly how designing a race car works, and you're giving these templates by iRacing, and you get to work, you get to practice, you get to get better at this craft, and you see guys, like you said, Justin, actually make the jump from iRacing one day to working forward and now making potentially, if not a career out of it, at least seeing your own product out there in the physical world too. And I tell you what, as a designer, it's so cool when you get to see a car that you designed that someone else is racing out there on the track that they picked out of pure randomness. You never met this guy before, you never heard of him, but you hop into a session and you see that guy running your paint scheme. Oh, it's not many things cooler in the iRacing world for a designer.
I agree with you on that one, and there's a reason why so many designers have gotten some love recently, especially in media. Currently, drivers, by the way, are in the midst of trying to sort out the scenario on the racetrack with the situation we had seen on the previous restart. That's currently seen Brian Dean, Chris Wolfson, Steven Spees, Todd Liston, Kenny Kibbe, currently among drivers trying to sort out potential waves. But Holloway, as a result of his wave, was able to keep himself on the lead lap. The lucky dog was Wolfson officially on the racetrack, but he is still 1 lap down. Brian Dean, after his incident, is still 15th position, 1 lap down. Spees is 3 laps down. Liston is 4 laps down. Kibbe is still 4 laps down as well. The only DNF is still pardoned from that earlier race incident. 39 laps to go. J.R. Shepard and Justin Morton 1-2. Green flags back out.
Masterful restart from J.R. Shepard, and how about the 45 of Jason Menda quietly making his way back up onto the podium?
Yeah, but to get some luck, absolutely, and now is trying to hold off Donnie Moore, a name we haven't talked about too much all season. I see Menda just trying to run that curve compared to Moore, who's trying a bit of a different line, a bit more flatter on entry.
Well, right on board here with Donnie Moore in that number 26 machine. We've seen him in past seasons just have quiet, good finishes, but luck has certainly not been on the side of the ASPCA machine. But tonight, trying to get himself up onto the podium.
running 21 ones to start off, make it 21 flats. The leader's running 20.8. James Lowe, meanwhile, has passed Robbie Robinson just now of note for 6th position. So Lowe is already back within the inversion spots, coming up quick.
Still has plenty of room to be made up, though, is seen in the 6th position. Still going to be a plethora of points behind J.R. Shepard, but it would be enough potentially to get by Kenny Kibbe. Coming into tonight, 15 points behind Shepard in every position worth a spot. So he will continue to try to work his way up, try to make this a little bit less detrimental to his season.
Absolutely. You've got a feel for Kibbe, though. This is going to be a big-time hit in the points for him and could give Shepard control of his own destiny for the standings. Low with the chance to control his destiny now to take advantage of this.
Yeah, and you see the 9 machine right behind him. He came into tonight 11 points behind J.R. Shepard, and if he does not get around that 98, then that gap just continues to widen. He would move into the 2nd position in points, but still, when you're having to chase that 98, it's not a task that anyone in this league likes to try to do, because oftentimes it's impossible to do.
Still challenging for the race lead, running 20.8, still only 1/10 of a second difference in the follow-up of, we should note, compared to their fastest time so far tonight. There's also the big Dago cars, keep in mind, for 10th on back that are all bunched up together around on the racetrack. Belke, Holloway, Pearson, Segala, Ortiz are among those competitors. You can see those drivers now trying to separate themselves out, as Joe Segala got passed by Ortiz, last time by in 3 and 4.
Taking a look here at Belke, who brought out the most recent caution back into the top 10 for him. He's currently sitting 5th in points, the first driver behind the star drivers that we've had, Shepard, Kibbe, Morton, James Lowe, and then it's Austin Belke, who this year has just had consistent finishes and now trying to work his way back up to the field and pick up another consistent finish tonight.
Take a look for Bruce Pearson, meanwhile. Pearson, he's had some ups and downs throughout the season, a lot of downs and some bad luck, but tonight, it's been looking pretty sporty this evening, running similar pace to the cars in the top 5, and already looking to make a peak of 11th position.
Trying to close in on that MAV TV mobile, that number 2 machine of Mike Holloway, just overshooting it a little bit on the corner entry sometimes. That will give Pearson, if that happens too many more times, an opportunity to take a position, as now they're trying to swap spots in front of them as well between the Mark Martin throwback and the Jeff Gordon throwback.
Several battles across the track as the leaders are still separated now by about 4/10 of a second. Shepard is starting to grow the gap a little bit, with little mistakes starting to build up now for the 9 machine. Shepard has minimized his mistakes outside of that lap 1 situation.
And just notice how these 2 drivers have absolutely ran away from the rest of the field. Certainly wish that we had Kibbe and Lowe up here to run with them, but those 4 have been the class of the field, and with these 2 being the only 2 left out front, just look at that gap they've accumulated, nearly half a straightaway on the field. But you see that red number 99 starting to close in as well. He wants to get a top 5. James Lowe trying to close in on that 3-car path.
Look at James Lowe in particular down the front straightaway, and you can see how much he's closing in some of these braking zones. But the tough part is, when it comes to this track, it can take you 10 to 12 laps to set up a pass. It's such a rhythm-focused track where it just takes that amount of time, but the lap time and the distance to be able to set it up.
It really is a rhythm track, like you said, Justin, and then once those tires start to change a little bit, you have to recalculate your rhythm on corner entry, slowing down more, on corner exit, not hitting that throttle so quickly, and on cautions too, when the tires cool down, how different you have to figure it out. And sometimes when you have a caution, you have to get back into that rhythm, and it's difficult to do sometimes, or even the slightest thing like being passed can take you out of your rhythm, as now we have a battle up for the final spot on the podium.
Donnie Moore able to take away the spot from Jason Menda, as Shane now looking to follow suit in the 65. Nice look on that 65 machine tonight, and a nice pass that gets him up to 4th position.
Shane with an opportunity here Boy, the 45 does not want to back down, but he will go a little bit defensive here into one. Shane new to the series this season, so now he has an opportunity. If he can catch back up to Moore, he might have the opportunity to talk to us post-race.
We'll see with 22 laps to go, though. A lot can happen here at the paperclip. The lead is still within 0.3 of a second. The rest of the field, though, is at least 3 seconds behind, losing about a couple and hundredths a lap compared to Morton and Shepard.
This is where things will get interesting. Everyone on this long green flag run, their cars are going to change. The tires are going to change. As we come down to now just 21 laps to go, who has saved their stuff the most? Somehow, someway, J.R. Shepard seems to be the guy that has the ability to save up that tire while still having a blistering pace. Or is Justin Morton pressured that 98 as he gets a little bit out of shape to force an error out of the 98? But right now, it looks like that 9 machine, he's having a little bit of errors just trying to keep up with that 98.
Now he is starting to get really loose all of a sudden in the past couple corners or so, especially on throttle. That again has been the major negative for Morton in a lot of these races for the past year. That has lost him about 0.3 in one lap as a result. About a 10th on the stopwatch.
And J.R. Shepard, I wouldn't even think that he has been looking out of his rear view mirror this entire time. He does such a good job at maintaining his pace and doing so right now as well. Last time by a 21.12. And that is only a few tenths off his best lap. This lap at 21.1, just so consistent when he finds that pace.
Meanwhile, battle is starting to heat up in that pack we were talking about, around where Bruce Pearson is for 10th on back. Altzies and Seneca are now among the drivers trying to go back and forth. They also have Mike Holloway also fighting for position in this group. Kurt Smith and Austin Belkey are still among the lead cars in this whole train.
And this is where things get sketchy. Seneca throwing a little bit of a block, but here comes Mike Holloway in that white number 2.
Oh, he set
Contact.
Contact in 1 and 2. They stop as the caution flag is out.
Well, that almost looked like a game of chicken being played there at the end as they both were deciding who's going to go first. But we saw a glimpse of this. We'll take a little bit more of a look in depth. You see the run that the 2 got. Attacking corner entry so much harder. Gets a run, goes to the inside. Seneca throwing a little bit of a block. I mean, that's nothing too crazy. And Holloway just really threw it in there, deep fried, really hot. That's all it takes. Bring out the caution.
Absolutely. What was the phrase before? Trying to lick the stamp instead of pour that. You pour a whole tap of water on that. Well, that was a little bit like that this time. Holloway now with minimal damage is going to come in just in case it looks like. Seneca getting the worst out of it. Keep in mind that drivers are being given a wave around this caution flag again from that situation a little while ago. It's going to be interesting though with 15 to go how this breaks down between Shepard and Morton for the race win.
And we will go green with just over 10 laps to go. Remember, no green-white checkers in this league, so if we get a caution within about 3 or 4 laps to go, the race will be over. So in a way, you can kind of look, once we go back green, you're going to have maybe 7 laps to get something done that you need to get by J.R. Shepard. Now, whether that's Justin Morton second or Donnie Moore, who was moved to the 3rd position, there are only a few laps to try to best J.R. Shepard, trying to find his way back into victory lane. It's been almost a full year since that 98 has went to victory lane in virtual Virginia.
If you are Justin Morton, what do you do then to try and take victory?
Boy, there are 19 other cars in this race right now that would love to know that, because there are so many guys who have just not been able to do that no matter what track we are at a late race caution. But obviously the key is getting a good restart here. Maybe you don't want to go side by side into one. You just want to tuck under that rear bumper and pressure the 98 car. If you can get a good run out of turn number 2 and just get that nose under J.R. Shepard. These guys race very clean, very respectfully, especially out front. So JR's not going to throw some sort of ridiculous block. If you just get that nose down there off of turn number 2, you're going to have a chance to take the lead. It's
going to be intriguing how this all breaks down. Shepard looking to go 2 for 3 on the night tonight. Shepard had a solid run in the street stock race, battling with James Lowe in that victory Jeffrey Harden took earlier on tonight. But for Shepard, he had dominated the Tour Modified race for several laps. One to go signal this time by Seneca taking the wave around. It'll be Morden to his outside, followed by Donnie Moore, Adam Shane, Jason Menda, and James Lowe are in row 3. Robbie Robinson and Austin Belkey are in the final inversion spots. This is going to be where the popcorn seat is going to be very, very big here, potentially, I feel like.
And Shepard looking for win number 5, a victory tonight in this Moonshine Challenge will give him the chance to really extend that points gap.
Try and go 2 for 2 in the Moonshine Challenge, indeed. Green flag's out. Shepard with a good launch. 11 laps to go from the paper clip.
Almost a car length between him and Justin Morden. You just want to be on that rear bumper here on exit. Shepard gaps him down the back straight though in the 98, making himself a large lead, coming to 10 to go.
Final 10 laps for Martinsville. Can Shepard hold on? James Lowe among the drivers fighting in the backdrop with Jason Menda. Mike Holloway and Brian Dean also scrapping for 12th. The rest of the field single filed out. Lowe trying to get that high side of work. Donnie Moore holding on to 3rd position, though, would be one of his best finishes in a long while in the 26 machine if he can hold on.
And the 99 of James Lowe trying everything to make that outside lane work, able to get around Jason Menda, and now moves him into the 5th position.
Todd Liston. Last call running on track, around for the caution flag in the 87 on the front straightaway. And that will set up one final restart potentially for this race.
So much misfortune tonight. We talked earlier about Liston running so well after starting dead last here in this race. Team here in 3 and 4, the black and yellow car, and just another victim of that throttle coming off of turn 4.
Less than 5 laps down, able to keep it off the wall, however. Of note, Kenny Kibbe is only 1 lap down in this race. Still going to be tough to try and catch up in the point standings, but for Kibbe, a chance for recovery here is in the lucky dog position, this caution flag, as Liston has also been given a wave around.
And we will reach the point of no return once this race goes green. Once we get, like I said, to 3 or 4 to go, then this race will conclude potentially under caution. So this is the last chance. We'll see what Justin Morden learned on that previous restart. If he can do something just to give himself that little bit of an edge. He's only going to have about 4 laps if we stay green to do it. So one is going to be clutch time for Justin Morden, but we've seen how well Shepard can really mix up his restarts from the lead.
He's been difficult to try and get a read on for his start. Sometimes can go early, sometimes right to the green flag mark at the end of the restart box. Of note, Liston's come into the pit lane for some potential repairs. He and Chris Wolfson are now battling for 18th position, 4 laps down. The rest of the field is now in the lead lap, and it's a chance for Kenny Kibbe to try and get some recovery points here over the course of the final couple laps, since he is now in the lead lap in 17th of note.
And how about Robbie Robinson, now up to the 7th position in this race, the 26-year Air Force veteran, now working as an aircraft mechanic for United Express. He's right behind the 25-year firefighting veteran of Jason Menda. So these two having good races and in the invert spots to potentially be in the top 3 when we race again next week.
Down to the final 5 laps in this race. Coming up to 4 laps to go. Should be about a 2 or 3 lap shootout. And say Shepard gets a good launch, what do you do with your Morden to try and get a pass in the span of just a couple sets of corners?
I mean, last restart there was nothing else that he could do after he came off of turn number 2, and and Shepard just really extended that gap. I mean, you would just have to make some sort of ridiculous move into 3. It all comes down to this restart right here. If you are not on Shepard's bumper coming off of 2, you're going to have to rely on a mistake by J.R. Shepard, and those come maybe once every 5 blue moons or something ridiculous like that. Shepard just does not make those kind of mistakes, especially here in crunch time.
1-to-go signal this time. 3-lap shootout. Next caution flag ends the race. Shepard and Morton in row 1, Moore and Shane in row 2, Lowe and Mendo row 3, Robinson and Bunky in row 4. Row 5, Smith and Altice. On board with Morton as he tries to time it up with the 98. 98 goes right in the middle. Green flags out. Final 3 laps from the paperclip as Shepard with a good launch and Moore with a massive send and a half sends around Morton. Caution is out, and that may do it.
That is going to end the race, and a day full of misfortune will conclude with the 9 car getting turned around here. We'll take another look back. Morton in the red and white number 9, Donnie Moore in the white number 26.
And this is from about 2 car lengths, maybe a car length and a half back. He's seen the opening, but man.
And I mean, the 26 car was able to stay down low. I don't know how much he slowed up when he made contact with the 9, but I mean, he was able to keep it down low. So it's not like maybe he was going to fly up the track if the 9 car wasn't there, but you just hate to see that. This is now 2 championship competitors that are going to finish far outside the top 10.
In the end, though, it's J.R. Shepard who's able to recover from a lap 1 incident that's seen him sent to the back of the field, damage the back end. And then, by the end of things, he was able to pull through and get himself to the race lead. For the 5th time this season, J.R. Shepard will win in the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series. He does it at Martinsville.
Just another masterful performance coming from the 8th starting position. Now win number 5, and after last season losing his first ever championship, an opportunity for title number 4 here in the Grand National Series.
Absolutely. But you got to feel today for Kibbe and Morton, 16th and 17th respectively. Major championship ramifications for them. But a good recovery on the counterpoint for James Lowe to get to 4th.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the major turnaround there is the fact that Kibbe and Morton finished 16th and 17th tonight. Meanwhile, James Lowe, who got shuffled all the way to the back on lap number 1, moves into 4th position. And so now it doesn't look like nearly as bad of a points day as we thought it was going to be, say, just 30 laps to go.
Quick break, post-race coverage coming up in just a moment. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel for the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series. Welcome back to the Global SimRacing Channel's coverage of the BRL's Grand National Series and what was an interesting second leg of the Moonshine Challenge at Race 7 of Season 5. J.R. Shepard took home his fifth victory of the season over Donnie Moore and Adam Shane tonight. Speaking of those dramas in just a few moments, James Lowe and Jason Menda rounded out the top 5, while the inversion spots seen Robbie Robinson, Austin Belkey, and Kurt Smith in those positions. Ruben Altis and Brian Dean rounded out the top 10.
And now we step into the lobby of Heartbreak Hotel. Bruce Pearson coming home in 11th, Holloway in 12th. Joe Segala has to sell for 13th. Speeds had a great night. He has to finish 14th. Ryan Santa late incident in 15th. Kenny Kibbe, Justin Morton, Chris Wolfson, Todd Liston, and Jeffrey Harden round out the 20-car field tonight at Martinsville.
Tonight, it's J.R. Shepard who takes home the victory once more. J.R., an interesting one tonight. How are you feeling about this victory?
Not sure how to feel after the way that race went. A lot of strange things happening, and a lot of guys that deserve to be up front kind of getting taken out or having connection issues, which I think was a server thing on iRacing side. So, yeah, it's a little weird. Not a type of race that you'd like to win, but it was a decent comeback after the lap 1 incident.
Yes, indeed. What was kind of going through your mind after that first lap incident to try and claw your way back into it?
Once I saw that I was in 13th, I knew that, or at least I thought that a podium was going to be extremely hard to get, and I just went into extreme tire-saving mode. I knew that a lot of those guys were trying to race and get into an odd position, so if a caution came out, they'd have a good line to run, and just really trying to save the rear tires. That's the biggest thing in these cars at Martinsville.
Mm-hmm. Next race goes to Myrtle Beach. Your thoughts on that race?
I enjoy that track. It's there's a couple of different lines you can run, and you can make the outside work too. And it's very gritty, so it's one of those things you gotta save the front and the rear tires there. So look forward to that next week.
Mm-hmm. Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Yeah, just shout out to the Bootleg Racing League for allowing us to do this, to my team Different Path Motorsports, and thank you to GSRC for doing great broadcasts for us. And yeah, just hate to see that some stuff happened tonight. Feel bad for Brian, and feel bad for Justin and Kenny too. So yeah, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. Congrats on the win. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
J.R. Shepard taking home the victory tonight. Devin Henry now standing by with your second place finisher, and what was a wacky one. It's Donnie Moore who joins us in the broadcast booth.
Yeah, Donnie Moore bringing home his best finish in a long time, able to come home on the podium. But first and foremost, Donnie, let's talk about that last restart. Take us through what happened there with Justin Morton.
Yeah, you know, he was going wide there going into that last turn, left the door open for me, and I made the move. And I looked at it a couple times. You know, my front tires were up to his rear tires. I don't know who was right or wrong there, but you know, last lap, I thought the door was open, and I went for it. So I apologize to Justin, but you know, I'm not sure if that was right or wrong.
Well, nonetheless, just a consistent race from you tonight, able to bring it home in second. What did it take for you to be able to avoid a lot of that chaos and calamity and just run your race and bring it home here in the podium?
Yeah, it was chaos, wasn't it? Yeah, so a lot of fast guys were out of there, and that was unfortunate for them. So, yeah, I had no business being up there, but since I was up there, competitiveness just took over, and so I went for that spot there at the end. But, yeah, I was very fortunate to be in that position, so without the chaos, I wouldn't have been there.
Well, you looked consistent. Glad to have you once again on the podium. Who do you have to thank for a second-place finish here at Martinsville?
Oh, man, it's been a long time since I've been able to shout out my buddies at Stone River Outfitters. So shout out to them, and, of course, shout out to Lowell in the league here, and you guys.
Well, Donnie, congratulations on the second-place finish. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Donnie Moore brings it home in second, and for the first time, we will have Adam Shane here on the broadcast with us on the podium. Justin?
Yes, indeed. Adam, first things first, how are you feeling about your run tonight, taking home a podium in one of your first starts of 2021?
It feels great. It does. It's being a newcomer to this league and, not making any mistakes the first couple of weeks and being embarrassed. But, yeah, I mean, it's starting out great for me.
How tricky was this race tonight to keep the tires underneath you? That was talked about by J.R. Shepard as a challenge on him. How challenging was it for you?
Oh, there was times that she was loose coming out. You really had to do some throttle control coming out.
Next race is at Myrtle Beach. Your thoughts there?
I like the track. It's a fun race. I'm hoping to keep up with what I've been doing.
Who do you want to thank for your run tonight?
I want to thank my wife for letting me do this, and I want to thank my sponsor for sponsoring me and helping me get through this, Gargamel's Kitchen. That's about it. And I want to thank GSRC for putting on a great casting.
Thank you very much for the time, Adam.
Thank you.
Adam Shane coming home in third tonight. I'd like to thank him, Donnie Moore, and J.R. Shepard for taking the time to speak with us. Devin, real quickly, your final thoughts on this one.
Boy, the virtual full moon was bright here at Martinsville, but again, attrition comes to be a major factor. Next week, of course, at Myrtle Beach, we're going to see that once more, Justin. And, of course, the biggest thing tonight, all those championship implications.
Absolutely. It's going to be huge to talk about the points in the next broadcast for this series, but we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's action for the virtual Martinsville Speedway. I'd also like to thank Bootleg Racing League for organizing this exciting series. Thanks to the companies who provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed up on screen. Additional thanks to Jude Luan who provides wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team tonight as well, and Devin and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.stormvy.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell so you don't miss a moment on the Global SimRacing Channel. The next moment you can see this series is at Myrtle Beach. That'll be on February 27th. Coverage starts at approximately 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so be sure to check those out and mark them down your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.